Back in business. There was a setting issue, and we've got that corrected. And just to let everybody know that that segment was still being recorded, and we'll have it put back in if it was not shown. But it just was a setting issue, and we're always trying to make sure that what we do here is available for our community to see, and that's I think that's what we should do. So that's why we stopped. So that brings us next to transfers as presented. Any questions or comments related to transfers? Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That leads us to number 7, bills and hand checks. Any questions, comments?
Make a motion.
Motion from Kelly Corman, second from Dwayne Ellison. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let the record reflect that our county clerk submitted fees in the amount of $213,066.90. As well, let the record reflect that our sheriff submitted fees in the amount of $87,853. And that leads us to the celebration. Melinda?
Thank you, Judge Covington and Fiscal Court, for allowing us to be here today. If you're unfamiliar with CASA, it stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, but what we do is we take community volunteers that are trained and supervised, and then they are matched to a child or a sibling set that are victims of abuse and neglect that are in your family court system, and we advocate for what's in the child's best interest. So different than the state-funded social workers in that we are there for the child's best interest, and that sometimes includes reunification, it sometimes doesn't, because that's not a safe and permanent option for the child. But also our volunteers typically have one case, so they can spend a lot more time dedicated to that child and what's in their best interest. So we are happy to be serving Scott County. Our program, the official name is CASA of Lexington, but we serve Fayette, Durbin, Woodford, Scott, Jessamine, Garrett, and Lincoln. And we are here on very exciting news today for Scott County. Last year marked a first for the county in receiving Presidential Volunteer Service Awards for some of our CASA volunteers. But this year, we have significantly more Scott Countyans that have dedicated so much time they will be receiving one of these Presidential Volunteer Service Awards. And if you're unfamiliar with the PVSA, it was created in 2003 to recognize the important role of volunteers in America's strength and national identity. And the award honors individuals whose service positively impacts our communities in every corner of the nation and inspires others to take action and be involved in their community. There are 2 levels that we're recognizing here today. The bronze level is someone that has 100 or more hours of documented volunteer service last year in 2023 right here in Scott County. And then the silver level recognizes 250 hours or more of volunteer service. And so each of the recipients today will be receiving a letter of thanks, a certificate, and the letter is actually signed by the U.S. President. So I thought that was very exciting and an honor for both Georgetown and Scott County to have so many of your citizens that have dedicated this amount of time to serve your community. Collectively, the 8 recipients volunteered 1,525 hours last year here in Scott County. And some other statistics for you, if you're unfamiliar with what the family court system looks like, here in Scott County last year, there were 284 new children that entered the system that were victims of abuse and neglect. And that's in Scott County alone. And that's just the new children that entered. So at any given time, over 560 children are victims of abuse and neglect with active cases here in Scott County. And I think that's staggering. We don't often hear about it with family court being closed. But we are working to help break that cycle so that, unfortunately not tomorrow or even next year, but as we progress, hopefully we're going to see those numbers decrease. and more families are raising their children in their own home and not coming into the system. And we could only do that work with the volunteers. So they are really the lifeblood of our organization. We had 29 volunteers here in Scott County last year, and we're required to have one full-time staff member for every 30 volunteers. So we're being very fiscally responsible here in Scott County with the number of volunteers we can have. There's still room for one more if somebody wants to join us. And we serve 69 children, which means only 12% of the total population was served. So typically we're getting the worst of the worst cases. And our volunteers are making lifelong impacts on behalf of these children. So before we get to the fun part of honoring, well, one, I'd like to thank both the fiscal court and the city for their fiscal support of this organization. Without that, we would not be able to serve Scott County, and we are very proud to be serving this community. But if County Judge Covington, Mayor Jenkins, and Judge Fuchs would mind to step up, I'd like you all to present the awards to the volunteers. So I'm going to start off with three of our folks who could not join us today, but that have all received the bronze level, and I think we should still read their names and recognize them for their service. Stephanie Deal, Carrie Gordy, and Kim Lyon all served on cases here in Scott County and received the bronze award. But now we'll move on to the individuals who could join us today. So first up, we have Roxana Del Campo.
Thank you so much. Congrats.
Next up, we have Deborah Birdwhistle.
Stand right here.
Next, we have Debbie Rurik Goodwin. Next up, one of our newer volunteers, but was still able to log over 100 hours in a short number of months since she was a CASA volunteer in 2023, Bev Chandler. And last but not least, our heavy hitter, who has been a CASA volunteer longer than I've been the director of this program. I've been here 11 years, and she would quickly tell you that she began in Fayette County even though she lived here in Scott County because there was not a Scott County program, but was so excited when we expanded services to her own community of Scott County, and still been with us. How many years are we at?
I don't know, I say 16, but
So 16 plus years she has been serving the youth of this community through her work with CASA, and she has qualified for the silver level. And so she'll actually be receiving a medallion along with that certificate and letter. And she logged over 250 hours, which is not a simple feat. Miss Cynthia Phillips. And now, if all of our awardees just stay there, Cynthia will come up. We're going to take a group photo. And while they're coming up, I'd like to recognize a few other people. We have one of our newest Scott County CASA volunteers here with us today who was not active in 2023, so I expect to see his name on this list next year. Scott Carter. Scott. And then we also have some of our team members here, Heather Porter, who has been serving as volunteer manager here in Scott County, and Ben Kleppinger, our director of communications. We benefit from having a regional program because during a staff vacancy, we're able to bring in staff from Woodford County. another dedicated staff person here in Scott County. As I said, there's definitely space. If anybody's looking to be a volunteer, we'd love to talk to you more about what that looks like. It takes 5 to 10 hours a month. Majority of our volunteers do still work full time. And if you think about that, that's not a lot of time to change a child's life for the better and in some cases save a child's life. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Again, thank you both to the city and the county for your fiscal support of the program. And now if all of the wordies will come up for one last picture.
You all come on down and
Yeah.
Sit back here awkwardly. It looks really good if you're just randomly there.
Yeah, just blow it right here.
Get your finger out of your nose.
Looking good. So you got Debbie pop in here in the middle and put the pictures on it.
And everybody take a step, about 4 steps that way.
We're all idiots.
Here we go.
Thank you all for what you do. I'd like to say too that, this is a team approach with the city, and joint funding is what makes it happen. And I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Casa, Sue Casa.
Okay, we will skip number 11, as I mentioned in our in an email yesterday, and that will lead us down to 12, Ordinance 2402, first reading. I think Cam shared an email and thought it was very appropriate, the request that Rick made. So, Cam, would you like to just kind of set the table for us?
Yeah, so we had a first reading last time. During that discussion, Rick, I think, appropriately obviously asked if there was a provision for appeals of the penalty provision in the ordinance, and so I looked at that and there was not as written, so we've further amended the ordinance to make it subject to appeals, and I've shared that via email. So if no other discussion, I'll go ahead and read it if you want.
Any questions?
Do you know, did you talk to Devin? Because the city passed something very similar.
So no, that's a good point. I've drafted this like a couple days ago, so I haven't looped in Devin or I think Jessica Brown with the Revenue Commission. I would do that after this, or if you want to pass the first reading to the next meeting, that's fine as well.
No, I think
So it will be a little bit different from there, because basically I drafted the initial ordinance just modeling exactly what they had. So this will be different from theirs.
I think we just loop them in,
Yeah.
just so they know.
So, Cam, the Revenue Commission has 3 members. However, what happens if there's an appeal in the absence of one of the members? So let's just say there's not somebody in that position.
We always have a proxy.
Okay, so all right. So
If there's somebody that's not there, there is language that allows for a proxy.
Yeah, I just want to make sure there was language and something like that to cover that kind of situation.
Okay. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 2024-02, an ordinance amending Ordinance 04-05 regarding occupational license taxes and amending Ordinance 20-06 regarding appeals. Summary. 1. Requires a current business license or copy thereof to be prominently displayed at each place of business or to be available and produced upon request if no physical business location exists. 2. Establishes business registration requirements, including the posting of a $275 cash bond with the county for general contractors as defined in the ordinance. 3. Establishes business registration requirements, including the posting of a $275 cash bond with the county for any person or business entity conducting activity in the county that does not meet the definition of a transient business and who does not own or lease a physical business location within the county for a period of over 6 uninterrupted months. 4, provides for the electronic submittal of an annual reconciliation documentation by employers with greater than or equal to 100 employees to the Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission, and further authorizes the Commission to prescribe/require the returns, forms, or reports to be filed and to define the way each is to be filed. 5, exempts the federal government from the requirement to withhold, report, and pay the occupational license tax, and to further establish withholding requirements for all such federal government employees. 6, allows for the cancellation, termination, or suspension of a contract with a contractor or vendor determined by the Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission to be non-compliant with the Scott County ordinances and requirements, and makes such penalties appealable pursuant to the provisions of Ordinance 20-06. 7, allows for the suspension or revocation of a business license and to further establish notice requirements in the event of suspension or revocation, and make such suspensions or revocations appealable pursuant to the provisions of Ordinance 20-06. 8, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon the passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the office of the Scott County Fiscal Court, 101 East Main Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, introduced and publicly read for the first time April 12th, 2024.
Very good. Questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Hostetler.
Second.
Second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll go to number 13, Resolution 2409, Amen House. This is related to the CDBG and very cut and dry, just a formality, to be honest. I'll let Cam read it, and then if there's any questions, we'll go from there.
Scott County Fiscal Court, Scott County, Kentucky, Resolution 2024-09. Whereas it is deemed to be in the public interest that the Scott County Fiscal Court will undertake the Amen House Food Distribution Center project as described in the HUD CDBG application of 2022, and whereas the county has been awarded HUD CDBG funds for the project, and now therefore be it resolved by the Scott County Fiscal Court that use of the funds generated from rental payments and expenditures of generated funds will be used in accordance with program income/miscellaneous receipts regulations promulgated in 24 CFR 570.489E14. It is further resolved that at no time will the facility be utilized to house general conduct of government offices.
Not to be confused with Part 5. Don't want to confuse that. So we've got this straight and documented. Appreciate that. Any questions or comments? Mr. Jones? Motion. Second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Fire Department SOP revisions. Mr. John Ward shared this via email. John, appreciate your leadership and your efforts. Can you share just summaries of what you're recommending to the court?
Thank you, Judge, Magistrates. Basically, right now we have two SOPs that deal with promotions. We met with admin staff there at the fire department. We took it to Jeff. Just had discussions with him, different thoughts on it. We've done research, but basically what we're looking to take two SOPs and combine them, just have one SOP that deals with promotions. So like the email I sent you, I basically, highlighted kind of what is going to be changing from promotion SOP to what the new SOP, promotion SOP. But part of that, like I said, combine the two into one, talking about the eligibility requirements, process, and the selection process as well. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on that.
Questions?
Is there any additional cost from going from the old SOP to the new SOP that you all can anticipate? Because when I read it, I couldn't see where there was, but I just,
No, actually, it's gonna be a potential savings for us
Okay.
because, one of the, as far as getting down the selection process, our old SOP had that we would do it and the list would be good for a year. The new proposed one would be, the list would be good for 2 years. That way we're not repeating a process, every year.
sure.
And a lot of things that we've included in this as well, we've done our research, we've looked at what other fire departments out there are doing. So it's kind of, we took pieces of that to kind of fine-tune and make it ours.
Okay.
But the testing process in itself, especially for the lieutenant captains, it can be quite expensive. That's kind of one of our reasons going for 2 years instead of that year.
Mr. Pratt?
The only thing that I had a question on was, it clarifies that service time is not to be consecutive for a lieutenant or captain. Is that consecutive with other, because I know in the pre-hospital world and in the fire service, somebody that leaves, comes back, right? And then somebody's been there the whole time, that can have a negative connotation. Do you have any worries about that? Or at all? Or is that common in the fire practice?
Yeah, I mean, as far as common, I don't know, but the way I look at it, I guess, is whenever we do have a process and whenever we do have an open position, I want to fill it with the best possible candidate as possible. This is kind of, let's just say we've had people retire. We've had one individual retire and come by. So I guess my question is, he spent 20 years on the department, and if, we have a process and he goes through it, why, my thought is, why would you not want him to be able to go through that process? Nothing to say that he's going to be guaranteed a spot. He's got to go through that process like everybody else. But if he spent 20 years on the job, that's a lot of experience that, that he could bring to that position. I guess it's my thought process on it.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. Yeah.
I mean, Jeff may have other, but we discussed that.
Because you guys, you could have somebody that's retired and they're 40 years old, right? I mean, you got kids out of high school and college, whatever, and 20 years in, and then they can come back and still have a lot to give, right? So why keep that barrier?
That's my thought, because if we didn't have that language as far as it doesn't have to be consecutive, then say that person retired, had 20 years on the job, came back, and say he's had a year and a half on the job, and then we open up the process, he wouldn't be eligible to apply.
Right.
And that's a potential.
I think it does get to morale, a little bit, if I'm a young firefighter, how do I move up or EMA, it doesn't matter wherever, but if I'm young, if we're just somebody's gonna retire, they're gonna come back, where do I go with it? What's my motivation to keep working hard and keep moving up, right? That's just something to think about. I mean, when you're going through this process, it's just, it's more of a motivational thing, right? How do you keep your younger firefighters? We deal with it in all of pre-hospital, but, how do you keep your young people hungry and wanting to do better? If they see that they're always going to be, hey, I can never move up because this person's just going to come back. I think it can really, I've seen it hurt morale in other areas. So just something to think about.
It's like the transfer portal.
Like a transfer portal, right? I'm not never get playing. How do I know if I'm going to get playing time?
But at the same time, I think everything that we've done with our compensation and our efforts to attract and retain and recruit people, we have tried to recognize experience, and we have made that part of the compensation package, that we look at someone when they come to us, what experience they bring to the table, and then we plug them into our compensation structure from there, not at zero, not at, and I do certainly want to be sensitive to what you're saying, but I think our what we've done on pay and compensation and benefits, and especially on your command staff, we have made it. We want people to want to work here, and we want people to feel like they're being compensated for the job they do. And I think everything that we've done over the last 5-6 years has been really focused on that. And I appreciate what the court, the court supports that and recognizes that. But I do want, like what you're saying, but I think what the change in the SOP is doing is that we're not closing the door on someone that might bring a lot of experience in.
We're not guaranteeing anything.
We're not guaranteeing, but we're not closing the door.
I didn't say we were. I just said.
No, and I didn't.
I just want to be
Yeah,
mindful.
no, I
mean, if you
I'm not.
if you want people to work,
I'm not diminishing what you say, because we need our young firefighters to stay with us. We need our young staff to stay with us.
And that's part of leadership and culture, though.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I'm confident that we've got great leadership across all of county government, and appreciate the efforts. I'll step off my soapbox.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because like I said, keeping the morale up at the department is very important to me, I definitely don't want to.
No, I just think when you're hired, like, just something to think about, because this, I think some people could read this and be like, I'll never move up. Why? It could be hard. So just something to think about. I'm not saying it's bad. Just,
No, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's something to consider, but I think it's not closing the door, and I think that's what it's doing. Other questions, comments?
Move for approval.
Motion? Second, Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Lytle's Fork Recreation Advisory Committee reappointments. There's 2 where we staggered the terms. There are 2 terms that are open, and from Temple Jewett, the 2 individuals are willing to continue serving on a reappointment. It is Aubrey Roark, I believe,
Jackie Anders.
and Jackie Anders. And any questions or comments there? Motion. Second. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Livingston with the second there. I heard that delay. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Board of Assessment Appeals appointment. This is kind of a unique situation because it has to be someone that has banking, real estate, or appraisal experience. And it's a short window that they agree to work, and it could be 1 day, could be 2 days, could be 3 days in June. But Brett Halverson is who I'd like to present to you all.
This year is your appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
But you all know how I bring everything to you all. And
sometimes it's a court appointment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a judge.
So we really don't need a motion on this. Next year is a court appointment.
Okay.
And but Brett, very active in our community, very active in the chamber, and has a lot of real estate experience. So that just have that on the record. And in new business, I have 4 items, maybe 5, that I just want to bring everybody's attention to. On Tuesday, 4 o'clock, right here, interlocal committee. Everybody's welcome. Want everybody here if you can be here. Just going through the agenda, KPDI update, both local and regional. We'll talk about that. Mr. Woodrum, our board chair for the airport, will be here and give just an update about the airport. He's the new board chair, and excited to hear what's going on out at the airport. What coaches have flown in or families have flown in lately. Yeah. So, yeah, the Pope's visiting.
Yeah.
When do we get the Pope? Call out there. Let's see if they can put some white smoke up. So,
It's pretty good.
yeah. Magic Johnson was there not too long ago. So airport does a lot of great things. Code enforcement, a proposed amendment that's just really cleaning up some language and some responsibilities in case of legal action. Road maintenance discussion about at what point does, after an annexation's taken place, at what point does that road become a city road? What point there? Discussion about electrical inspection. And then also discussion about cannabis legislation from the state level that impacts county and city, just about placement and where it's permitted and such. And then there'll be a general discussion as well. Does anyone else have any agenda item that you all would like me to run up the flagpole for discussion on Tuesday? All right.
Not for Tuesday, but we will need to have one for like parks and stuff like that. We kicked that around a lot last time,
Yeah.
but
I mean-
there's zero kind of come from it.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, if you would like me to add that,
Not for this time. I think it's too much.
All right.
It's almost a standalone meeting.
All right.
To be honest.
now,
David's got something.
David Livingston.
Yeah, I didn't want to just scream that. Dwayne, there's a committee together right now, which I'm sure you're aware of. I think we received close to 50 applications, and we're sorting through those right now to provide the best recommendations to be presented. So that process should probably be done Tuesday or Wednesday next week to put forward the 5, 6, 7 recommended prospects.
So then that could be on the next interlocal, whatever quarterly deal that is. I know we've got it already set as far as the date.
Well, yeah, we would probably, if we wanted to discuss it as an interlocal, call a special interlocal meeting just because we'd be moving along to hopefully put somebody in place before 3
Gotcha.
months from now.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that recommendation will go to Parks and Rec board. Parks and Rec board makes that decision. And it's good to have variety, and it's good to have qualified applicants. So with that said, but what you were talking about,
I'm not necessarily talking about the Parks Director.
yeah, you were talking about
Budget.
as we move forward.
What are we doing?
We had talked about a possible joint effort on some capital projects.
Right.
That's kind of fallen. And what I intended to bring to you all, and I've discussed this with others as well, is, we cleared the pickleball footprint out there. I'm working to get some estimates to give to you all for consideration to add that. Also looking at ways to collaborate with the school system as well on an effort there. Looking at, I've been contacted and we're going to meet, and Mr. Wallace has mentioned this in the past, but Parks and Rec's actually been contacted by a regional group about disc golf. And Chad, I haven't had a chance to tell you this, but their big thing is they think when you have 18 holes at a site, that it really brings people in. And the cost for doing disc golf is very minimal when you look at the big picture of other things.
College have a disc, the college already
I
has
don't
a
know.
disc golf
I don't know
course.
if it's 18 or not though.
I mean, it runs
is it?
around the track. I've seen people play, it's 18, right?
Yeah,
There's already a disc golf
but Parks and Rec has been approached by this group about possibly adding another disc golf place here. So
Like the
all I'm talking,
Masters of disc golf.
all I'm talking about is for you all to consider. That's my job to bring.
When you get a green shirt, not
Yeah.
a green jacket.
Yeah. So we'll go out there and go underneath the tunnel, and we'll call that Amen Corner or Amen Tunnel. So all I'm talking about is that's been mentioned to me here recently, but for this budget cycle, to be just transparent with everybody, my thought process was can we get some pickleball courts? That people wear me out. Like when I go to Kroger and I'm reaching in there to get a jug of milk, hey, you got a second? Let's talk about pickleball. And that's good, and that's why we're here, and I signed up for that. But I am going to patent a new invention, and it's you put this little plastic 3 flags on your grocery cart. It's red, yellow, green. Red means, hey, I'm in a hurry. Can you give me a break? I can't talk now. If I put the yellow up, hey, I got a minute. Green, stop me, talk all you want. So I'm working on that.
Gotta get a disguise.
So I just do pickup.
Like
Yeah.
fake hair.
But no, I'm being facetious a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about this on Tuesday. And then Justice Center, yesterday was a momentous occasion. The PDB, for the Hall of Justice, we approved a going to bid, and there is an addendum that will be on the bid because there's a question about the size of the family courtrooms, and we'll work on that. But the big thing is that we voted to go to bid, and now they're checking a couple boxes on drawings, and they will advertise it for 6 weeks, and then the hope is to be doing work this summer. And there's a lot of site work before they can really get on doing the foundation and the building. They've got to move sanitary. They've got to move a lot of work. So I'm very thankful that we are moving forward with that, and that's going to be a great asset to our community and have access to a great building right here in downtown. Lyle Road Soccer Complex, April 27th, 10:45 right now is when I'd like to see you there. We will have like a ribbon cutting and recognition of a donation and from Miss Sonia Doucette. I don't know if y'all remember that from about 19. She made a commitment. Her family did, and Sonia was a longtime soccer, booster here in the community, and really volunteered a lot. So her family will be able to be there on the 27th. Won't be long, but that's a good time because there's games in the morning going on. There's games like at 10 a.m. and then games at 11. So we'll do a short little ribbon cutting and a little presentation, and love to have everybody there. And then this week we have dug in and we have done 2 days, 8 budget meetings, and just trying to get that process started and trying to, number one, address and meet needs, but number two is and really it's 1A in my book is be good stewards of tax dollars and prioritize with what we have. With what we have is projected revenues, and I'm confident that we will bring you all a good recommendation. My plan is we'll have most likely have a total committed work session just for budget workshop to lay it out and let you all look at it, and then bring it back to you all for consideration. In between the workshop, we can always address questions, make tweaks, and make sure we're not leaving anything out. But that's all that I have for new business. Anyone on the court have any new business questions or comments?
Question about the budget. Does the wage study come back yet? Have we got that?
So we'll rip the Band-Aid off. Jeff and I have worked and met with the vendor that was chosen to work with. And over the course of, Jeff submitted a lot of data. And then through that course, and Jeff, you might need to step up.
Something that was
Through the course of going back and forth with your vendor, Jeff discovered numerous mistakes, and very disappointing to me because I'm, from what, if there is no question that we have made every effort to try to make compensation a priority. And what we were doing is we requested, the big picture of what we requested was we wanted updated medians for all our positions to make sure that we're not out of adjustment or getting behind. And that was plainly communicated, that was our goal. Well, Jeff meeting with them after that numerous times, we've had numerous mistakes. We made requests for the raw data that they were supposed to collect from the counties and the cities that we asked them to do the work from. They declined and said they would not give us any raw data. So I told Jeff that I did not have any confidence in what the product that we would be getting from them. I have no confidence in it. And for us to make business decisions on someone's compensation using our community's tax dollars, I can't. So what Jeff and I were, literally Jeff just had the last conversation a day ago. And what we've agreed to is like we're walking away. And they've agreed that we paid them $3,000 up front. The original total amount was supposed to be 17. We're walking away. We will have to go back and start fresh with another vendor. But we wanted to share this via email with you all and just hadn't gotten it together. But we've ripped the Band-Aid off, and now we will. But we will share an email with you, and then we'll share an email with staff this coming week. And we'll start fresh. Now, what I've asked Jeff, looking at where we have turnover and where we think we might be out of alignment the most are 4 spots. And deputy jailer, fire, deputy sheriff, and then paramedic, EMT. Just looking at that, I asked Jeff if Jeff could you scramble and work, but and try to get us, just a mini study on, like, do we have issues in our medians in those 4 spots? And then what we've also talked about just between us is we did this a few years ago. We put a little extra money in the budget for reserve. And then once we had all the data at Christmas, we adjusted. You remember doing that? Yeah. So that might be what we might look at doing. I'm going to stop talking. Jeff, what would you like to add?
No, you're absolutely right. We noticed several errors in the data, the calculations wrong. Frustrating point was there were places where I gave them data, they couldn't even give me back my data in the correct format and calculate it correctly. And I expressed my concern about the confidence in the data they were giving me, and that the fact that they couldn't even give me that data back in the correct format. Let alone then, how did I have confidence that the data they were collecting from others was being processed correctly and being calculated correctly? Also, the methodology we talked about, they pulled from pay scales instead of actually getting the pay that the people earn in those positions. That's the data point that you critically need to make these important business decisions, which are irreversible. And once you rely on data and you make pay adjustments, you cannot go back and undo that. So that's where we've got to make absolutely certain the data we have is accurate data that we can make these important business decisions on for the best interest of the members of the community as well as the employees that work here.
Judge, before your term, when Judge Leslie was here in his last term, the court at that point, we went out and hired a group to do similar to what we were getting ready to do this time. And we came into the same issues, that they were going these same pools of data that they can pull from, but it didn't match up. It really wasn't apples to apples. And then we moved to, when you were elected and brought on, we then went to hire an HR director, and the best set of data, this is my opinion only, was when we had Jeff do the compensation study. And so what I see happening here is that it's best when we grow it our own, and I know that's an enormous amount of work, and I wanted to say I appreciate you doing it the last time, but the best data we get is when it's done in-house.
I won't argue with you. Jeff does a great job. It's good, though, to have an independent set of data, an independent that you feel like you have validity and accuracy that says, yes, what you all have is this is what you all, this is where your meetings will be. But Chad, like what you're saying is correct.
I can assure you that the next consultant we select, I'll be working with extremely closely. Head to hip, and probably in contact with, if not on a weekly basis, at a minimum, probably on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But just we had a lot of contact with the vendor that we were working with, but it was not, it's just very disappointing. I'll say that.
We devoted at least 4 months to this, and unfortunately, we got to start over.
Right.
But the vendor that we were working with had great recommendations and great, have worked with a lot of cities and counties as well, and private and public. So, Mr. Pratt. Good question. It was coming as an email.
He brought up the budget. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Well, and now, any other questions about this? And we're going to send out an email to you all and to the staff. And, what we had done in the past was we did have an amount that we set into the budget that once we got all our data right, we put in that we could make adjustments at mid-year. Now, I will tell you that it'll be my recommendation to the budget committee and to the budget and to the court that we look at between a 3.5, 4 cost of living adjustment. That's the data that we're seeing. So that's something that we will make in this budget. We'll make a recommendation to you all. That's your all's decision collectively, but the data that we have, the recommendation is more like 3.5 to 4, probably closer to 4. And would you have any comment on that? But I think it's something to bring up right now during the conversation, that what other type of adjustment might be made, and you also will be doing the step adjustments that people will make with experience on July 1. What else, Jeff?
That's it. And we'll evaluate these positions that we talked about to see if there's any need for making adjustments there. So we'll address those. And then, unfortunately, everybody's just going to be patient until we can
Yeah.
a new study.
Yeah.
Probably, if those we did apply those adjustments would be a January 1.
Yeah.
And let's face it, what this is though, it's a market check, it's a pulse check. We're trying to figure out where we are. We could be fine. There's a lot of positions. What I don't want everybody to think is that we're way off. We may not be. But
Yeah.
there might be some positions where the market has moved, and all we're trying to do is make sure we're being as fair as we can with the people that work here, and make sure they're being receiving fair that work here.
And I want to echo that. This is a check. We want to make sure the data that we have is current, and that the medians for jobs that we have is accurate. And then if they're not, then we try to look at everything holistically and make a recommendation to you all for adjustments. But some of the positions that we have might be very tight, but some of them might be a little bit behind and need to be corrected. And that's why we do this. And I'm very disappointed that we're having to go back, but I'd rather go back and have it right than not have it right and go forward, because the impact is not good.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you being diligent on it. I mean, we work a lot with data, so bad data in, bad data out. So I'd rather have good data than bad data. So.
No, 1,000 times. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I want to thank, I don't know about this, I wanted to thank Chris about he gave us the data on how much the run costs were for ambulances, and that's really informational as far as making decisions. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Any public comment or comment from anyone in the audience? And Mr. Hostetler?
The dollar store I sent out, just texted a couple of pictures or a video and the fire hydrant. I've been contacted by several folks in the Sadieville area and they're very appreciative. And I wanted to share that with the court. I'm going to share that with the mayor and the Sadieville City Commissioner as well. The fire hydrant's installed. I don't know if it's alive, but if it's not, it will be soon.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of ditch work to do, but whatever. And then I sent a little video of the store, the Dollar General stores coming along. I don't know their time frame for the opening, but I bet it's not too far away.
No, it's not too far away. April is what was mentioned to me, and end of the month, and like they don't waste any time.
Well, I sent you some videos, and you can see the site's still rough, but they can do a lot.
But this is a market version. It's the larger version, and I mean it's a great thing for northern Scott County.
And I've been contacted by several folks. I mean, I got a text message the other night, the fire hydrant's in. I mean, these folks they've been needing this.
Yeah.
The whole area has.
Yeah.
I was contacted years ago about getting a grocery store, and I said, well, I really can't control that, but anyhow.
No, good
We're
to
here now, and
Yeah.
I wanted to express that to the court. They're very thankful, the folks up there are.
Anything else? Would there be a motion to adjourn? Motion Kelly Corman, second Rob Jones. All those in favor? We are adjourned.
Kelly's favorite motion to make.
Tell me that next week.
Smoke on the tire.